Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Reframe, the Mental Health Summit. I am Pooja, Makhija, functional practitioner and nutritionist. And today with me, I have Raj, a very close, happy friend, Raj Nayak, the founder of House of Cheers. That's what we're going to be talking about today, focusing on how we can bring in happiness in the work culture and how companies can create a more happy work environment so that we can all together hold hands of each other and instill happiness in day-to-day lives. Hello and welcome, Raj. You've spent a good 3 decades of your life in media, entertainment, and now the happy swap to happiness. Tell me more.
Happiness, because I think that is the sole purpose of every human being. You know, sometimes we want to acknowledge it, don't want to acknowledge it. But end of the day, if you sit back and think, whatever you're striving for, and you sit in a room and you start making notes, you will realize at the end, at the top of the pyramid, you will have the word happiness. And this is for anybody, anywhere in the world. I spent, like you just mentioned, I spent over 3 decades in the corporate world. And I noticed something, you know, every corporate wants to keep their workforce happy. I mean, everybody makes an effort and things like that. And in spite of that, people are not happy. And I was always trying to find out. And, you know, there came a time in my life when I was not happy. And I've been researching this for some time. And what I realized is more than 80% of the people actually quit their jobs for emotional reasons, not for financial reasons, not for designation, but for emotional reasons, right? And also, I think corporates have not spent enough time on understanding how people are feeling. You know, everything so far has been based on academia, measuring how people think, but nobody's measured how people feel. And that's when I thought, especially after I quit my job, and I was thinking the easiest thing for me to do was to get back into entertainment, media, and, you know, that. But I wanted to do this because I felt I would make a difference to society at large, and happiness can also be a good business.
True. So, in basic, blunt words, what makes up happiness? Can one really instill happiness into oneself?
According to science, they say 50% of your happiness is genetic. Okay, that means if your parents were grouchy, you will be 50%, you will be grouchy as well. 10% of it depends on the environment. But the good news is 40% is how you, the way you think and how you react to a situation.
Okay.
So happiness is, the control is entirely in your hands. So you can actually mold yourself to be a happy person. And you can make that happen.
You know, to that, let me add, your gut makes 80% of your serotonin. Serotonin is your happy, feel-good hormone.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the healthier you eat, the healthier gut you have, the more serotonin you make. The more serotonin you make, the more the quotient of happiness, which is part of the 40% that you're contributing to your overall happiness, can be done when you are eating well and have a happy, healthy gut that's making happy, healthy serotonin. So, yes,
awesome.
I'm sure.
And that's nutritionist speaking, you know, you're adding, you're complementing. And that's true, you know, because, I mean, there are many things to happiness, right? But one of the things is, if a person genuinely wants, they can work towards being happy. It will take time. They can work towards being happy and positively influencing people around you as well.
Okay. Let me ask you, so in a headline way, how can organizations actually make their work culture happier?
So, first of all, happier work culture is a prerequisite if you want your organization to thrive. You know, it's as simple as that. I mean, every human being needs a purpose. Okay. And if you have a purpose, then that's what will lead to passion. And when you have passion, that's what creates energy. And when you have energy, you're that much more productive, right? I mean, I give a very good example. I knew young boy and a girl, and I live close to Juhu Beach, and she comes from an Orthodox family, and the only way she could meet him was 6 a.m. in the morning on the beach. And he is a late riser, would never get up before 9:30, 10. But the moment he had a purpose, he was there. 5:45 in the morning, he was on the beach, right? So you need to give people a purpose first. That's one. Two is, today's generation doesn't work only for money. And this has been established. Not only today's generation, I think earlier people didn't have options. So our parents joined one company and stayed there and things like that. But people basically work for three things. They work for respect, recognition, and reward. And in that order. So if somebody pays you $1 million and gives you 5 galis in a day, you will say, "Rakh lo apni naukri, main to ja raha hu." Second is recognition. Everybody wants validation. Your spouse needs validation. Your children need validation. You need validation. And Instagram is a great example of it. You are seeking validation for people whom you don't know. You put out a post and you're counting your likes. And finally is the reward. So it is important that you have to, especially post the pandemic, you have to acknowledge these things and understand your people. More importantly, understand what they feel. Because if you are able to measure what they feel, I think you conquered. I mean, most of your job will be done, because then you can address those issues.
Yeah, like they say that there's no secret that the way we feel at work is the way we perform. That's why the focus has to be on attention on emotional well-being for the people and for your employees.
Very true. Very true. And, you spoke about emotional well-being, and we were brought up saying leave emotion at work. I mean, leave emotions at home. Okay, leave emotions at home. And especially in leadership positions, it was like, if you're emotional, they will say, "Are emotional kyun hota hai?" It was like, in another way, it was saying that you're an idiot. But how can you leave your emotions at home? It's the same head, it's the same body that you're carrying to work every day, right? You can't leave emotions at home. And I think that is changing today. And two, it's becoming more and more important, and you mentioned emotional well-being, to understand how a person feels and address those needs. Today, the biggest thing that, in an organization, there is Gen Z, there are millennials, there are baby boomers, there are Gen X, all 4 kinds of people working in the same organization, and all of them behave differently, right? But the millennials and Gen Z, what they are seeking today, the biggest thing, and our research has shown, is psychological safety, equality, fairness. These are things they are looking for. So it is important for organizations to be able to address this.
So say we are social animals, okay, and there has to be this sense of connectedness. And you said there are different age groups that work in one organization, and there has to be one central force that will keep them all connected. So you're saying emotional quotient is the way to keep them connected?
In a big way. Now think about yourself, right? Forget work, think outside, right? What is it that keeps you connected with your spouse, with your friends, with your children? It's emotions.
Your emotional select.
It's right? Emotions. And feeling a sense of belonging is a basic human need. Everybody wants to feel that I belong, right?
Very true. Very, very true.
Yeah. And majority of the time that we are spending today, your waking up time, you spend at work. And it's important, that is the place. If you don't foster relationships, and if you are not able to create that environment where people are fostering relationships and being there for one another, creating that community, I think then you have a problem. And I've worked in organizations, right? I mean, and I've seen the change happening over 30 years, where at one time, if something happened in somebody's family, the whole office would be there. And I've moved 25, 30 years later, what would happen of course, I was in a leadership position, so I would come to know, but otherwise, one department wouldn't know what's happening in another department. Even if somebody drops dead, they wouldn't know unless there's a mail that's come from the office, right? So that is the issue. You need to create a sense of belonging, and you need to create a sense of involvement.
So you're saying basically back then the work cultures did have more individual approach versus today it's more a community approach. Is that the game changing
I
bit?
think I think it was a community approach years ago. I think
Okay.
it changed over a period of time. Okay,
Hmm.
because the corporate world became a rat race, and then suddenly it became very individualistic. Everybody running in the same direction. But I think organizations have, and it's not organizations. Look at our schooling system, for example. You have to come first. You have not looked at it. You created those kind of competition that everybody then starts working for themselves. You need to create that it's not about coming first, it's about doing it right and doing it together.
Very true. Very true. It's interesting that we never see sense of control to be the reason for happiness. And yet when many employees are more in control of their destinies, we will have happier places. Let's talk on that.
Yeah. uh, Today's generation, and I'm not talking about today's generation. I think people at workplace or anybody, one of the biggest thing everybody seeks is autonomy. We talk so much about autonomy, but do we, we want autonomy from our bosses, right? But do we actually pass it on to our subordinates?
Hmm.
Something to think about. Autonomy, clarity, progression in skills and learning and development. These are some of the key drivers that's driving today's employees at the workplace. And the new generation today, and when I say the new generation, I'm talking about the millennials and the Gen Zs and things like that. They are not used to dictatorial type of management. There was a time when what the boss said is right. Today, people question. They want to know why. They're not saying they will not listen to you. They're saying, but explain to me why. And if they have a difference of opinion, they're so confident they're willing to express it. They're not scared anymore. But what organizations do to a large extent, I think, they suppress those voices to a large extent. So you need to give people the freedom of voice. You need to give them autonomy. And most importantly, you need to be able to communicate with them on a regular basis.
People who usually speak up are considered rebels. People who usually voice their opinions are considered people who are rebelling against the force or against
No,
authority.
I don't think it's rebelling. It's having a voice. It's having an opinion. And sometimes not necessarily that the voice is right or wrong or things like that. Many times, and again, I try and bring this in personal life into thing. People just want to vent, right? I mean, people just want to vent. They want an outlet to vent. So we've introduced something called Employee Voice 24/7, where anybody can go anytime and just write what they are feeling, good, bad, ugly, and they can also write. They can. There's a sliding scale, but besides that, they can also write what they feel. Right now, organizations are not mind readers, right? And it's not that when you get all this feedback coming to you real-time basis, where you know what's the mood of the organization, or when you know that there are some major issues. So 80% of the people are saying this is a major issue. Not necessarily all the time you will have a solution for it. But two things happen. One, people feel good. When you vent, you feel good that मैंने तो बोल दिया, जो बोलना था बोल दिया, right? Two, from an organization's point of view, you are able to filter that information to identify what is urgent and what is important. So it becomes like a weather report. You can't stop the rain from coming, but at least you can carry an umbrella or you can warn people. So I think that's the thing. It's very important to give people a voice, and our framework is everything about giving people a voice. And we say freedom to be happy. Even in Hindu spirituality, ultimate goal for everybody is moksha. You want freedom from even your body, right? So that's the thing. So you have to give the people the freedom to express themselves. I think, again, once people went, and I used to have this open door policy in my company, people would walk in And I used to tell them anybody can walk in anytime. And they would come, they would speak, they would go. But by the time they left, not that I had solution for everybody, but by the time they left, they felt that it was not a problem anymore.
What if someone's happiness doesn't cause you happiness or causes you unhappiness? Now, I know we're supposed to talk organization.
No, but it's,
so
no, it's fine.
Say, for example, my child's thought of what causes her happiness doesn't give me the same happiness, or rather makes me unhappy. Then what do? You let her still experiment.
You have to let her experiment, because if you truly care for her happiness, then you will make those sacrifices to say, I want to see her happy. If that's what's going to make her happy, let me allow it. If it's not going to give her happiness, she will come around. She will come around. But you will have the satisfaction saying, I let her do what she wanted to do. Otherwise, you will live with regret for the rest of your life.
Fair enough. I know sometimes as the parent or as the person in command, so we feel, I'm talking about perhaps a organization head or a person whose company it is. Yes.
The first biggest thing is we all like to control. We don't like to part with control, because that it's a notional power that we carry in our head, right? You need to let it go. One of the biggest thing, again, if you want to be happy, you need to learn to let go, right? The moment you learn to let go, you will see the burden. You'll feel free. You'll feel that much more. You'll feel that much more comfortable with yourself. And if you're happy within, it's only then you can make others happy. If you're not happy, you will never make others happy. And the first thing about happiness is also something which is very selfish, and people do a lot of charity. People do a lot of, because it makes them happy, right?
Yeah.
It makes
the more you give happiness, the more you get happiness.
Right, because you're doing it for a selfish reason. You're doing it because you want to be happy. You're saying, I want to make that person happy, but actually you want to be happy. So that's the way to think about it. And you have to let go, and it will come back. I mean, if it's not going to work out, they'll come around. But you can't force your opinion, whether it's your child, whether it's your employees. You have to give them the freedom to choose. You can give them saying this is all you can explain to them everything, but you have to give them the freedom to choose and express.
Would you say that Indian corporations are actually making this or making some progress and inherent positive changes in their work culture?
I think so. I think many Indian companies have now realized it. It's not that they haven't realized it earlier, but they have been doing different kind of things. And one of the things, and for me, the proof of the pudding is the fact that we've signed a few companies and we are onboarding some of the companies we're working with. So what we've done, and let me tell you a bit about what we've done is, I realized that if we are able to measure how people feel, like I said, not just how people think, then we've got something going, right? But how do you measure how people feel? Because if there are 10 people in a room, you can walk around and you'll say, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And things like that. Or किसी का मुंह लटका हुआ है, so you can say, oh, what's the problem? Somebody is not well at home, or is everything okay? And things like that. But how do you measure emotions at scale? How do you measure when you have 500 people, 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 50,000 people? How do you measure that? Right? And that's what we've built. What we've built is a framework, is an AI ML based tech, which is underpinned by neuroscience. Okay. And that's what we've built. And the whole framework is based on introspection, not interrogation. All the things where people do before is a top-down approach. You're interrogating people. Here, you're leveling with that person, right? And every time somebody introspects, they find the answers and they realize, oh, I'm doing it right, I'm doing it wrong. So when people ask me what business you're in, I don't tell them I'm in the happiness business. I say we are in the business of setting context to influence human behavior, to positively influence human behavior. And that's what we do. And that's what the whole framework is, where The organization has a live dashboard where they get to know what their people are thinking all the time. Okay. Plus, they get to know specific thing what their people are thinking. But every individual who's there also gets his or her own individual report. Tell them in context to
which
the
is something I
organization.
also want.
Pardon?
Which is something I also want. I want to take that test of yours.
100%. It will tell you in context to your organization where you stand. And you can do this with your employees, and they will get to know where they stand in context to your organization. Plus, you will get to know, no matter how small or large, because one of the things is people, even if you speak to them, no, they don't want to express. They are scared to express. They feel that you will judge them. So our whole thing is based on anonymity. So everything is anonymous. So people can express themselves the way they want. And once they do that, you will be surprised the kind of comments that come, the kind of feedback you get, and it's rich data, right? And data is emotion. Emotions are data too. So once you have the rich data and you then decide what is it we need to do, what is it we need to address, then you can prioritize and probably start addressing those things. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. There's no jadoo ki charik that you walk in and you'll bring happiness to an organization. Happiness has to be seeded. You have to seed it over a period of time. It will take time, right? It's like a plant. You have to keep on watering it and watering it. Slowly the plant will grow, and then you'll have a happiness tree. So that's the way to look at it. But you can only do that once you know what are the issues. Where are the plants? Which are the plants that need to be watered? Unless you don't know that, you will not be able to address it.
Yes, that's so beautiful. In this entire race of data and analysis, and we're just trying to figure all numbers and data and use AI. I think what you said, that even emotions are data, and to be able to analyze these emotions is the key to being able to tap the real potential of the person and of the company, of yourself. So once you learn how to read emotions and scale emotions and tap them, that's where we're going to be able to help not only organizations and individuals, but help ourselves as well.
Of course. Our framework is right now catered towards an organization. It can be towards a family also, a school or college. But the fact is, you can measure, and there are ways of measuring, right? See, individually, it's very easy. 10 people, it's extremely easy. But when you have 50,000 people, that's when you're challenged. And then you need to do a sentiment analysis. You need to again see, when you have so many comments coming and you have so many negative and positive words coming, then how to analyze it. And we have a team of experts who actually sit down and mine through the data and physically create an insight report. See, one is the machine, right? Machine will give you only so much, but end of the day, it needs a human touch, because it is a question of how you interpret the data that is more important. See, machine, there will be 100 people. See, you can always create a tech product tomorrow. That's not a thing. The basic key is in the framework. And secondly, it's in the how you interpret and analyze that data. That's the key. That's the key function.
So I know you're speaking in context to how you're saying it, but that's exactly the way I teach people about food and nutrition as well. So food and nutrition is not just about numbers and calories. We're not counting just calories. We're counting emotional attachment with food, because that's where people go wrong. What to eat and what not to eat for weight loss, वो सबको पता है. कितनी calories खाने में है, वो सबको पता है. Everybody knows that eating a roti is healthy and not eating too many fried food is unhealthy. So it's not always counting the calories or the numbers. It's the attachment and the emotions that go with food. So we attach to food in so many different emotional ways: stress buster, comfort, loneliness, celebration, sadness. हर चीज में we find comfort with khana. That's where most people are going wrong with their nutritional intake, because they're associating food with emotions versus learning how to distinguish food as fuel. So food is definitely socially binds us, and it is emotions connected to our emotions as well. But we have to learn how we can disconnect the emotional dependency on food. Then automatically we are disease free and independent of weight barriers and body image and everything that troubles us as well.
Pooja, you said it so beautifully, because first thing about happiness is about food. Acha khana rakho, acha party karo. But what you said is so true. You have to detach that emotion and treat it as a fuel. And once you do that, it's like car and petrol, right? Once you do that, probably then everything falls in place. But you articulated it so well, so beautifully.
Thank you, thank you, because
That's why. That's
I
why you
feel
are who
that's the,
you are.
sorry.
That's why you are who you are.
So that's what I that's what I wish that we would teach that to children in school. We teach children so many things in school about how to be able to be successful individuals, but we don't teach them how we can have the correct relationship with food. And food and body and food in you is a forever relationship. It's a relationship that you is so personal to you. It's going to go with you wherever you are, whether you're a student or a mother or you travel around the world. Food in you is a forever rishta, which is what we need to teach our children, because when you teach them young, you mold them to have the right relationships.
I
But
agree.
as
Yeah.
adults, it's literally banging your head on a wall. You first have to undo 30, 40 years of wrong relationships with food to teach them the right ones.
Yeah, I think that's true for many things. I always wish that yoga was taught to me when I was young. I wish my parents had put me into a yoga school and things like that, right? Because undoing is more difficult than doing.
Very true. Very true.
And I know this because now when we speak to corporates and things like, they're doing things in a certain way, right? Now suddenly when we are saying make emotion central to your work culture, I mean, they find it something completely new, right? And people don't like change. It's not easy. So what I've realized is some of the companies that we're working with now, the CEO has bought into the idea. So he said, I want to make this happen. And once the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? Once they see what it does, what's the kind of rich data they get and how they can execute it. So we actually go one step forward. We just don't say we measure happiness, right? We also seed happiness. So what we are building right now, as I speak to you, is an H suite, a happiness suite, where I've got some of the best people from all over the world who are going to be on a panel. So when a company has a certain particular problem, then we are going to have saying, okay, if you want in this area, we have this expert who will come and do it for you, whatever it is, an intervention, a workshop, a master class, whatever it is. So that's what we're doing.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is a process. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think if more and more people start thinking that emotions are important at the workplace, empathy, compassion, these are all buzzwords today. Everybody is talking about it. At one time, if you spoke about empathy and compassion at workplace, they'll say, yeah, he's a weak boss. Many people called me, I was a, what do you say? He's a soft boss. Okay. Soft-hearted boss. But I don't think there was anything wrong, because I personally got the best out of my people and they delivered because of the way I handled them. I don't believe that you should always have a stick. If you're able to connect with people, let me tell you one thing. I keep saying this. There's a difference between engagement and involvement. Engagement is very transactional in nature. I will do what you tell me to do and things like that. But once I'm involved, involvement leads to commitment. Commitment leads to marriage. That's when the ultimate love affair happens. And once you're involved with somebody, once you're emotionally connected with somebody, whether it's your personal life or professional life, think about it. You want to make the other person happy, right? So just imagine an emotional connect between an organization and its people, because then both are working towards making the other person happy. It's a shared responsibility. You can't say it's the company's job to make me happy. It can't happen like that. It's like parents. I can send my daughter to Columbia. I can get her a flat in New York City. But end of the day, she has to study, right? Same thing in an organization. The organization can give you a fancy, swanky office, cubicles and bean bags and cafeteria. But end of the day, the person has to bring his own resource to the organization, and that's what is called involvement. That's when you make it work.
The two-way traffic. Yeah.
It's a two-way traffic. I call
That's
it.
why you were the perfect person.
I say it's a shared responsibility. That's the way I would put it.
That's why you were the perfect person, I think, for Reframe, right?
I
Because
don't know.
really we all need to think about this. We all need to reframe the way we work, we delegate, we try to control or let go of control, emotionally connect with everyone. So I think I have, as just by speaking with you, I think I've learned so much today. So thank you
No,
so very much to
no. I
being
just want to end by saying, small thing again. Think of small little things. I like to give small examples because people relate to it. In office also, if somebody wants something from you, one of your employees, they'll say, "Madam ka mood kaisa hai?" Right? At home also, you say, "Bivi ka mood kaisa hai? Pati ka mood kaisa hai?" Why do you say that? I mean, these are, we take it for granted, because if the person's mood is good, the chances are the person will say okay to whatever it is, chutti mang rahe ho, increment mang rahe ho, right? Again, it's as simple as that. When people are happy, they are more magnanimous, they are more giving. There is a
understanding.
better, deeper understanding. There's a hub, and you radiate positive energy around you, right? There's a Harvard study which says people become 300% more creative. Okay, you're far more and when all this happens, obviously you got so much energy. You just think about it. When you're happy, you're on the go, right? You're far more productive, and that's the same thing. And just imagine being in and even I can't say this on the show, but just imagine when you're in a bad mood or you're not in a happy mood. Then what happens? You may be the best human being on earth. You may be fantastic at your job, but think about your productivity.
It gave me so much happiness to interact with you this evening. I know I've known you forever, but I think I learned a completely different aspect of you this evening. And I'm so happy that I know someone who is so positive and so looking to spread that love and happiness. Because, like you said, when you give happiness, you get happiness. And I think you're doing such a fabulous job, Raj, to be able to make larger organizations being able to give all their employees that much love and happiness so that they both work in a correlated manner and have a shared responsibility for each other's happiness and therefore each other's success. Thank you so much for being part of today's session.
Thank you, Pooja. And it was lovely speaking to you as always. And thank you for doing